What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you in December, no less. Once again, there are some stragglers, I guess you could say, for December, and we definitely wanted to go over at least 1 week more of reviews before we get down to year-end lists. And this one we definitely didn't want to miss because we've been pretty much following this band, I would say, close to their start. And yeah, almost everything they put out has been really cool, so we didn't want to miss out. So we are going to go over the latest EP from Axioma, Live Totality. This was released independently on the 6th of December. This band formed in Cleveland in 2015. This is their third EP overall. We actually went over their last EP, Primal Descent, which made it to my year-end list for EPs. We actually were sent their last full-length Sepsis, courtesy of the band. Thank you once again, Justin.
Yep.
And became one of our mutual favorites. And I've been seeing this band live for years before I even got any of their stuff. In fact, I saw this band open up for Amorphous years ago with Swallow the Sun, and was like, who the hell is this band? Man, they sound a lot like Neurosis. I like this. And that was kind of the start of my fandom. I have been following this band ever since. So once again, their guitarist Justin got a hold of us and said, hey, we're putting out a new EP. And it's kind of themed with that Total Eclipse that we got here in Ohio. We actually had the whole Path of Totality, and my God, that was insane. Like, it was probably one of the creepiest things I've seen in the sky. Is like a portal to another dimension opening.
It's like being in Silent Hill, but without all the fog, and it was just this weird kind of creepy, eerie vibe, and it got dark.
Got cold.
It got cold, the temperature dropped, and it was really weird. And yeah, they got to at least record a live song. The actual Live Totality, according to the music video, was done outdoors during the eclipse. So I mean, that was pretty cool. I have pretty much the same story about Axioma, although I didn't see them live. As soon as this guy did, he pretty much just said, here, check out the CD. They're from Cleveland. And I said, oh my God, that sounds like Neurosis. And here we are. And yeah, pretty much been a fan ever since. They played a show here in town that we booked with Narcotic Wasteland, which was really cool. And I've known Aaron since his days in Keel Hall, because I saw Keel Hall here in town. So, I mean, it pretty much, this kind of just fell into our laps as something that we really enjoy anyway, and now here we are with it.
And, I mean, baseline, yeah, you could definitely make a lot of comparisons to Neurosis and post-metal in general, but there's also elements of black metal, death metal, sludge metal. It is like kind of like this homogenized mix of just heavy, dark things. That's a very vague way to talk about it, but it's also accurate. So this was mixed and mastered by Noah Buchanan of Nunslaughter, and I was really curious about this one just because of, like, well, the main track on here, the title track, because it was performed during the whole, Total Eclipse, which is like such a fucking metal thing to do.
Right.
Let's be honest, like, the only more metal thing they could have done was actually summon Cthulhu from, well, Lake Erie.
I don't know if you want that Cthulhu, that version of Cthulhu. I've seen Lake Erie. I've been in Lake Erie. It's not a great time.
It was a very, very sickly Cthulhu that was summoned that day. Anyway, enough about our area of the world. This opens up with the title track that was done during this whole thing, and man, like, honestly, listening to it, I actually was kind of drawn back to that period because I actually went to the Cleveland area to watch this whole thing, and it really does kind of capture that vibe. It's an almost 14-minute track, but it's a really awesome slow build. Like, it starts off with these isolated, very twangy guitars, and the first thing that came to mind was, well, Twin Peaks. Like, it kind of has that mood, like there's almost like a little country western sort of twang to it. But as the song builds, it gets more dark and sinister. They start harmonizing the riffs. And then, just when you think it's starting to build into something heavy, it changes tempos. It kind of speeds it up a little bit and kind of plays the same melody, but like a little bit differently. You get some tribal drums. It's very meditative.
Yep.
Honestly, at this point, I was thinking about like stuff by Isis, The Ocean, Minsk. That band in particular definitely has a more meditative sound. Like, they really draw out their songs. And then the guitars like really come on, and, well, again, the first thing I thought of was Neurosis, and particularly the breakdown in the doorway, because that breakdown hits like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's got that vibe to it, and the way that everything just kind of explodes, because it's quiet for probably, 2.5, 3 minutes, and then it's huge. And really, if this was in fact recorded outside, like, the mix is perfect. It's just got this big, airy, like, all-encompassing swath of sound. Just, I mean, it covers everything, kind of like the moon moving in front of the sun to make the eclipse. Like, it casts a shadow that's this big out over everything.
Yeah, once the heavier parts hit, like, I mean, these riffs sound like they are, like, clawing their way through the abyss to just come and get you. Like, lots of bends and lurches, and they're just slow and droning. You have these plodding drums behind them, and you can hear this absolutely snarling bass tone behind it. Aaron's bass work, I think, is awesome just in general, but the bass tones on here, like, they just feel, I don't know, like extra thick and murky.
I like my women like I like my bass tones. Thick and murky.
Murky?
Murky.
So all 0.01% of the women watching right now, that's probably on his Tinder profile. As a centerpiece song on here, this song is awesome. It kind of encapsulates like everything this band is about in terms of like, they're more doom-laden side because this is just pure doom, and it kind of stays like on this like heavy monotonous riff, but it adds like little tags to it. Like you get this kind of like creepy crawly little tag at the end of the riff towards the end, and then it adds some like droning ambience in the background, and it just kind of keeps lumbering on, and then it bookends that melody, which again, like the whole thing kind of flows like the Eclipse did. Like, you know, once it gets that pinnacle of darkness, it is the heaviest thing on the planet, and then those moments before is like building up tension, and then all right, well, it's done now. Cool. That was the thing that I saw.
Now, if you were lucky enough to get the vinyl of this thing, the whole first side was the first track, Live Totality. The other side, of course, would be the remaining 3 tracks. And really, this is just Axioma getting into being Axioma, just with a little bit of changes, like especially production-wise. The drums are, for the first time, in my opinion, way more natural sounding. Like, they don't have that kind of reverb thwack on the snare drum. It just sounds big and rich and full. Even the mixture of the guitars, while it still sounds crunchy and full, it doesn't sound as maybe like effect laden as it did in the past. Like there's not necessarily all that reverb on it. Like everything sounds a lot more natural.
Yeah, there's like a dry crispiness to the guitars. Divine Ruin in particular, like, you know, you can hear more like the distant strumming and then how that builds in these more aggressive sections. And when they kind of start like chugging it up a little bit, you kind of notice like an extra kind of crispiness to it. Like there's just this kind of raw grit to it.
A little bit of a sizzle.
Yeah, but they're also like thicker than a Snicker. Like, I mean, they're just like these massive low-end just monsters. But this is not only where you start hearing the vocals, which Aaron's vocals are cavernous, just roars and howls. They sound desperate and anguished, but you also hear some of the drum flourishes kind of come up. You get like some blast beat accents on here. There's full-on blasts that show up on the last track. Dakhama, I'm not sure how to say that. But unlike the title track in here, the drums kind of like loosen up a little bit. There's some more variety in the beats. And when it comes down to dynamics, where Live Totality really just has that post-metal build, like, you know, just kind of build in layers, build to like a giant crescendo of insane heaviness, and then kind of like peter out and kind of strip it out layer by layer. 2 of these other 3 songs really kind of just, you know, kind of branch out a little bit in terms of the songwriting. Dakhama, however you say that, honestly, out of this, you know, side B to this, honestly, it's probably my favorite track in there, just because this is like, you know, kind of a sampler platter of a lot of things they do. This one has, again, those heavy, menacing, sludgy riffs, this good builds, like it starts off with an isolated riff and just kind of comes in just gross, but also atmospheric. This band is like oddly lush. Like it's not lush and pretty, it's lush and dark. Like they want the darkness to completely consume you. And I mean, I would say that's definitely the effect of like, well, every one of their albums. There's some really awesome cold strum melodies, but the one thing that really stood out to me on this one is the drum work, and especially on the cymbals. There's lots of clever cymbal work.
It's one thing I've always loved about this band, because this music doesn't require things like blast beats to make it entertaining. And in fact, a lot of this is usually slower, kind of lurching grooves. You get a lot of off-time shit, and within that off-time stuff, there's usually great cymbal work. And yeah, some of my favorite cymbal work appears in the last track as well. Just the action between the ride and the hi-hats and the little accents that go on the bell or clutching the hi-hat or whatever. And also within that song, some surprise transitions. Like it goes full-on black metal with blast beats, which I know this band is a fan of anyway, at least outside of the band in their personal lives, but like I'm not used to hearing those elements creep their way into Axioma, because usually Axioma for me is sludgy and dark and heavy and, well, Neurosis-y.
Yeah, blast beats are generally like an accent thing, like think like Converge, like, you know, Ben Kohler's drum work, where a blast beat almost works as a fill. This is like a sustained section of blast beats, cold, strummed riffs, like they're just icy and vicious sounding, and then Aaron is just howling his guts out over it. It just has a flat out, like, you know, black metal, post-black metal sort of vibe to it. The bass line, and it was something I've been thinking about, and actually it was due to a comment from one of our subscribers a while ago. The way to describe this band, oddly, is it's Hydra Head heavy. Now, that should make sense because Keel Hall was on Hydra Head, but also, like, there's a heaviness that is shared with this band as well as, like, you know, Craw or Cave In. They have, like, a uniquely heavy presence where it's just, you know, it's a little bit kind of like off the grid at times, or it's such a blend of different styles that it kind of becomes its own. Maybe not necessarily to the point where, like, you know, Cave In is, like, debatably a metal band. Like, like, you listen to them, you hear metal riffs, but you can't necessarily say, like, full on they're a metal band, or you can. It really doesn't matter. I'll just say, I agree, they're awesome, if that's the point you were getting at. This band is definitely more focused on metal, but again, like, there's elements that aren't explicitly metal. There's even, like, a really nice, like, transitional track on here, Terra Vista, which is just these lush, clean melodies with this ambient drone behind them. It's a very, like, lush kind of, like, post-rock vibe, like This Will Destroy You or Caspian, you know, bands like that. But it's also dark and haunting, and it fits in with this whole, like, you know, vibe of this being just, again, very atmospheric, but in a very just specifically dark way. And I mean, I just like this band because they've taken so many different influences and created something really wild on here. Like, occasionally you get, like, death metal tremolos that'll pop up. There's a little bit that shows up in Divine Ruin. But yeah, across the board, I would say this EP is just another great example, albeit a short example, of, you know, why I think this band definitely needs more attention on. For me, like, post-metal and, like, post-metal adjacent bands, I just don't think there's, like, quite enough of them. Like, yeah, there's some big standouts, but they're, like, long-time established acts.
Yeah.
We need some new blood, and I think this band is that blood. I will also say that, you know, once again, year-end lists, they are coming up. I thought I had my EP list absolutely ready. Maybe I don't. Maybe I legit don't. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I fucked up. Maybe I should have listened to this a while ago. But yeah, this is awesome. And I'm going to give it 4 stars. Like, honestly, it's almost close to the 4.5 mark. I enjoyed every moment on here. Live Totality in itself, that would have been worth it as just a single.
Yep.
I think that song is just an amazing, cool, slow build. It reaches its zenith around when the portal to hell was open in the sky, and I just like how it kind of, like, slowly builds back down. This band's sound is just awesome. It is a homogenization of a lot of bands I love. Like, again, sludge metal, death metal, black metal, post-metal. Even, like, some hardcore-ish moments. And, you know, there's definitely some stuff on here that I would say is pretty close to, like, Keel Hall, albeit, like, in a much darker sense. This is a killer listen. I don't see much in here in the way of, like, filler either. Like, even the interlude track, I think, is awesome as a cool, like, little separating piece between the 2 heavier tracks on the back end of this. This is absolutely killer. Pretty much baseline, I'd say, if you just like dark, oppressive, bleak, but also just immersive listens, check this EP out. Also, I mean, if you're a fan of Neurosis, fucking duh. Isis, Minsk, shit, dude, The Ocean, Cult of Luna, just, yeah, those kind of bands, you'll probably dig this.
I agree with everything he said. It's a 4 for me as well, and I can say this. my end of year list as far as the EPs were concerned wasn't full yet. This scratches an itch, for me at least, that doesn't get scratched often. You know, we spend so much time on death metal on this channel, and every now and again we get a post-metal band, or every now and again we get, you know, to go back to our roots a little bit and get that Neurosis-y sound, or the Ocean or something like that, but it doesn't appear often. And Axioma fills that void of all the things pretty much that I'm missing in that department. Like, yeah, again, this is dark and cold and bone-crushingly heavy, but like in a sort of suffocating way. Like, the sound for this album is the size of the moon that blocked the sun during the eclipse. Like, it's fucking huge, and it usually always is with this band. These songs are great, and they're very unique, like all of them. Like, all 4 songs bring something a little bit different to the table, and there's still moments of groove, and getting the blackened jams in the end. Like, it's a great presentation. Like Nick said, if you're a fan of the Ocean and Isis and definitely Neurosis and Cult of Luna, you're probably going to like this. Much with all of Axioma's stuff, I just recommend checking this out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also now have memberships. They are only 99 cents, and we are offering members-only streams, which we will probably be doing one in January, because December's fucking bonkers with holiday shit. And yeah, we got to get down to year-end lists, which are coming up. We also have some dumb emojis. I'll probably add some more dumb emojis, because it's the theme.
That's what we do.
And yeah, this is the new way to support the channel. We also still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with our t-shirts and hats. That is linked down below in the video description. And if you are interested in joining and becoming a member of this channel, there's a join button down below.
Tons of stuff going on at Thralls of Metal, as always. Album reviews, although this is the last week of new album reviews. We're going to get into our year-end lists and some other stuff going on, so other times, album reviews, discography rankings, segments, Nick's never-ending collection updates, tons of stuff going on. As always, we do it for you guys because we appreciate you guys still being a part of this. We are about to celebrate, at least on the 18th of December, we will be celebrating not only Nick's birthday because he's old, but we will also be celebrating the fact that this channel is turning 6 years old. We've been at this 6 years. Thank you, guys. We couldn't have got this far without you. We're on the precipice of 20,000 subscribers. It's amazing to think that 6 years ago, it was me and this guy that subscribed, and his mom, and a couple of our friends. And 6 years later, all of you are here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah, it's been an amazing run. Thank you guys so much. I am going to get something together for a 20,000 subscriber giveaway at some point. That'll probably pop up sometime after our year-end lists. Hopefully we don't hit the mark before then. I don't think we will.
I don't think so either.
But tons of stuff coming back in here. Retro reviews. We're going to get down to the Motley Crue ranking. And yeah, we're going to get some more discussion stuff. Like, I filmed all my collection updates for this year. We're good for a minute. So we can get into some other shit finally. But yeah, thank you guys so much for every bit of support you guys have ever given us. It means the world to us. And we will catch you later.